I am really excited to share that the Nonprofit Podcast Network will now be increasing the number of nonprofit stories we get to share. With the generous support from Cap Trust, fiduciary advice for endowments and foundations, you can find them in Sacramento, Roseville, and Folsom, Runyon Saltzman, Inc., RSE, Marketing, Advertising, and Public Relations, creating integrated communications committed to improving lives, and Western Health Advantage, a full-service healthcare plan for individuals, employer groups, and families. These businesses have made it possible for the Nonprofit Podcast Network to go from a once-a-month episode to once-a-week episode, allowing us to serve that many more nonprofit agencies in our community. Please give preference to these companies if you require their services, and if you don't, heck, write, call, or comment on their websites with a thank you. Oh, and be very sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode every Wednesday. Welcome to the Nonprofit Podcast Network. Our purpose and passion is to highlight a nonprofit organization in each episode, giving that organization an opportunity to tell their story in their words to better inform and educate the respective communities they serve, as well as provide one more tool for them to share their message to constituents and donors. Hi, I'm Jeff Holden, Principal of Multipoint Content Strategies and Hear Me Now Studio. We provide this forum pro bono to help build stronger communities through shared voices and to both encourage and support the growth of local nonprofit organizations through podcasting. My guest this episode is somebody I have been anxiously looking forward to speaking with for some time, as the organization she leads is one of the most influential to our nonprofit ecosystem. As Chief Executive Officer at the Sacramento Region Community Foundation since 2022, she oversees all aspects of the foundation's work to inspire charitable giving in the capital area through its philanthropic services and impact initiatives, including its well-known program, Big Day of Giving. Yes, Big Day of Giving is a product of the Sacramento Region Community Foundation. Before joining the foundation as its Chief Marketing and Donor Engagement Officer in 2018, she was Director of Advancement for the Crocker Art Museum and Vice President of Resource Development and Communications for the Foundation for California Community Colleges. For over 25 years, she has served in the nonprofit sector. She has received numerous awards of recognition, has served on many, and currently serves on several boards, and is an American Leadership Forum Fellow. It is my privilege to welcome to the program an outstanding example of a Sac State alum, Kerry Wood. Kerry, thank you so much for joining us on the Nonprofit Podcast Network.
It's so great to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm looking forward to this conversation. Some of us, and we say it wrong, I know, and I don't want to do that on the podcast. We've heard about the Sacramento Region Community Foundation. And for others, like a lot of people, I think they really don't know what it is. Could we start with a brief explanation about the organization, kind of a high level, if you would, of what is the Sacramento Region Community Foundation?
It's a great question, and we do not want to be the best kept secret, and we're working on that. But to describe a community foundation, I want to take a step back and share that we are one of 800 independently run community foundations in the nation.
Wow.
Right. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, and our role is to inspire philanthropy in the region. We are a place-based organization that focuses solely on the needs of this community. And we work with philanthropists that range from individuals, businesses, nonprofits, and others to open charitable funds that ultimately go back to the community in the form of grants to our nonprofit organizations and educational institutions as well.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Mm-hmm.
What is the geography? How big is the footprint?
We serve 4 counties, so Sacramento, Yolo, Placer, and El Dorado counties.
Okay. And does that include the east counties as well, up into Truckee and?
We just serve the 4-county region.
Okay.
Yeah. And there are community foundations that serve Truckee and serve the surrounding areas, and we work very closely with each of, we call them our partners. Really, we're all part of the same family to help serve our various regions.
Man, it's amazing. That's a big turf.
It is.
So that's a lot of, I mean, I know there's roughly 13,000 nonprofits in the greater Sacramento area and another 96,000 businesses, you're dealing with a lot of impact.
Yes, yes.
Would you walk us through, as you look at who it is you serve? In my mind, it looks like you have these two pillars. You've got your constituents, and then you've got those who are your donors. How do you do that? Can you give us a little more detail about that?
Absolutely. Yes. So we see ourselves in some ways as a matchmaker. So we work with fund holders who open up charitable funds like a donor advised fund, like a scholarship fund, a field of interest fund. And again, these can be individuals, businesses, nonprofits who open funds.
What would be a donor advised fund or an education fund? What does that look like? Yes.
What a donor advised fund is. Yes. So a donor advised fund, to really simplify this, is like a charitable checkbook. Okay. Someone can open up a fund. The minimum amount is $10,000. We have scholarship funds, minimum $25,000, and a donor can decide where they'd like to give. So they can be strategic in their giving. You may have, for example, 10 nonprofits that you donate to every year. It simplifies your giving. It allows you to say to the foundation, I would like to support these 10 organizations at this amount. You can do it anytime you'd like, at any amount above $100, all throughout the year.
Boy, that certainly simplifies a lot of things, especially if you think of, the crab feed and the banquet and the event and the scholarship fund and how we all attend the activities. To have one source for that?
Exactly. It really simplifies your life, and you can also set it up so that the nonprofits you work with come to expect contributions, and that makes things so much better for nonprofits to budget and to know what to expect rather than it being a guessing game.
So let's pretend I'm one of those donors, and I've got this philanthropic bent, and I want to give you, we'll keep it round numbers, just keep it simple, $10,000. That number that you just mentioned. I'm not quite sure who I want to give it to or really how, and I definitely don't have the time or inclination to vet each one of those organizations. I hear that's a good one, that's a good one. What is it you do to minimize some of that grief for me, but I still want to stay engaged and know where it goes?
Right. So I like to call it concierge service. So we at the foundation, right, we provide that service. So because we work with hundreds and hundreds of nonprofits, we have a knowledge base that we call givingedge.org that we can walk anyone through to help do research on certain areas you might have of interest. And then the nonprofits that we work with have been vetted, so you can be assured that they meet certain standards that we call really the foundation stamp of approval. So we work with many donors who have no idea what interest that they even have. So we can work with a family, with an individual on values and what's important, and eventually narrow it to areas that then will ultimately lead to specific nonprofits. So that's one of our jobs, is to work together with you on that.
And for the individual and or family, or I would imagine you can probably expand it to business, is there some sort of a process you go through to help me and or that family, my business, better understand what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we're doing it?
Well, that takes sometimes a lot of conversation. What might be important to one member of the family may not be as important to the other. Some people do this individually. But what we like to do is really get an understanding of what excites you, or what's impacted your family, what's impacted you as a person. What problems do you want to help solve? So these are all the kinds of questions that we ask to really get at the heart of what it would inspire you to give at any certain location or educational institution.
Kind of like if it was a hospital situation, it might be grateful patient sort of thing you want to give into healthcare, medical field. or you were fortunate or see a need for education as one of your passion projects, you can go into the variety of organizations that you represent that are in some way, shape, or form academic or
Yes.
educational.
Yes. And we have many people that really want to support the arts because they believe a community that is vibrant in arts is also a vibrant community. Healthcare is important to many people. Education is important. Basic needs are very important. Disaster relief is very important. And that's another role that community foundations play is in providing support for when disasters arise.
I would imagine as things ebb and flow, you see the dynamic of giving change to maybe support those causes in the moment and then back off as the condition changes.
Yes. Like during the pandemic, you can imagine. It's a whole different level of giving. For basic needs was a very, very important part of giving for many people.
How about homelessness? Do you see that as a big passion project, or is it too governmental? Too much support, too much noise?
Some people do give to homelessness. We find many people give to more preventative activities, which is workforce development, education, affordable housing. Affordable housing is not necessarily preventative, but we do find that there are many people interested in that as it relates to the housing insecure. For those that are actually on the streets, we know that there are many programs that focus on treating some of the issues facing those that are living on that are homeless. But it runs the gamut, let's put it that way. But we do find a lot of people are interested in the preventative side.
On the flip side now, I'm not the giver, but I'm the one that wants to get. I'm a nonprofit. And of course, I want to deepen my relationships in the community. I want to deepen them with donors, supporters. How do you work with a nonprofit that has an interest, but maybe is afraid to give up some of the control that they get as a result of the direct contact to the donor?
Right. It's a very good question. We work diligently to build relationships with nonprofits, both through offering funds that nonprofits can open. Many of them open endowment funds so that they can help build their future. But we also provide education and other support. We promote our nonprofit fund holders to the other fund holders, but also we highlight them in various ways in our social media posts, on the website, in newsletters. We really try to get the word out about nonprofits. Now, some do feel that there's a barrier there between the donors that give to them, not just those who open funds, but those who receive funds from our other fund holders. And so we work with the donors or the fund holders to have conversations on making that connection, being thanked directly, being able to go and tour a facility, to be able to bring those two together. Now, not every fund holder wants that. And for many, this is why they open a fund, so that they can simplify, so that they don't receive the large stacks of inquiries from nonprofits soliciting for funds.
Sure.
So it's an open communication process that we facilitate because we are looking to help bridge the relationship between the nonprofit and the fund holder. If the fund holder wants it, and if the nonprofit requests it, we do everything we can to keep that connection there.
So they don't lose or feel that they might have lost something. But in fact, they've probably gained because the access you have to funds and donors is going to be far greater than whatever their targeted list is.
Exactly.
You've got the target list of the entire community.
Exactly.
You mentioned endowment, just for the benefit of people who may not be familiar what that is. Could you explain that?
Sure. So an endowment is a fund that stays open in perpetuity. It's a small percent, well, I won't say small, it depends on how you define that, but in our case, it's a 4% per year available to spend amount that can come from that endowment fund. and the corpus or the principal amount stays in the fund, and we hope that it grows.
Yes.
So that those dollars can be there forever. And it's a percentage that goes out back into the community.
So knowing that that fund is, let's say, funded, there's a donation to this endowment, and the endowment holds X amount of dollars. There's a percentage of that gain every year that is given to the community, the charities, the nonprofits, whatever it is. And that money probably has to be managed somehow.
Yes.
Which has to be a big deal.
It
Because I can
is.
only imagine those funds, some of those endowments can grow quite large.
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yes. That is a big part of our job. We take very seriously. In our 40-year history, we have had an incredible track record of prudent management of what we call our assets that are made up of our funds.
Mm-hmm.
About 70% of our funds are endowed, and we have an investment committee that is made up of volunteers who are experts in the investment field that work with us to manage the investments. But we are guided by a nationwide consultant who specializes in community foundations and other foundations who are phenomenal. They guide our investment committee, who then guides the leadership team and the board toward making decisions on how to best invest these funds.
And that's on the investment side of it. And then there's the distribution side. So are the endowments specific to a particular cause or bundle of nonprofits?
They could be. Depends on what the fund holder or donor would like. We have some that are very specific and others that they may change their mind and they want to have that freedom to do so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would imagine over the course of these last few years, the endowments have done well in terms of their performance. If they exceed a certain amount, does that money then come back into the community, or does it still maintain whatever the threshold of give is off of the endowment?
Yeah, so anything
make
above
sense?
the 4% that is allowable to put back out into the community,
Mm-hmm.
if the investments exceed that, it goes back into that fund to grow.
Okay.
And then they'll have more to give in the future.
And it probably buffers the downside too at some point.
That's the hope, yes.
Because everything isn't going to continue
Exactly.
to be as rosy as it has been these last few years.
That's what we have to plan for, yeah.
You know, you're responsible for something I know many of us have heard about, and we talk about it every year when it comes up, and it's a big deal, and it gets a lot of noise in publicity. It's on the radio stations. It's on the TV stations. I'm going to let you say it because it's your event, and I don't think people know that that is associated and was originated by the Community Foundation.
Right. And that is Big Day of Giving.
Yes. And it is a big day.
It is a very big day. And it's one of our favorite days of the year. It's our 12th year this year.
I saw that. I was
Yeah.
amazed.
Which is wonderful. And the media does embrace this. We have such wonderful partnerships with all levels and types of media to help get the word out. We last year raised $13.8 million
That's
in
an
one
astounding
day.
number.
Yes.
It's just an astounding number.
And this is an online one day. We call it a giving frenzy, and it
Yeah.
allows the entire community to be philanthropists. This year, we lowered the minimum donation amount to $10 from $15.
Yeah, I saw that. That allows so many more people to come in.
Yes.
I just think that's amazing that you can make that contribution, feel good about that, and grateful you were able to participate.
Exactly. And we're trying to make giving as accessible as we can.
Uh-huh.
Not everybody can afford a $10,000 fund, but most people can afford $10. And it gets people thinking about our nonprofit sector and the important role that they play in our region. And this year, I'm excited to say that we are poised to make history, and that is we are planning to get to the $100 million mark of funds raised through Big Day of Giving since its inception.
It's $1/10 of $1 billion, right?
That's a good way to look at it.
That's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
in
It
little
is.
old Sacramento.
Exactly.
Oh, I
Exactly.
love that. Do you know where you rank in terms of your volume of gifts on any given year in the country?
With days of giving like
Yes.
this, off the top of my head, I don't.
Okay.
But it is my understanding that we are the upper third.
Which would make sense.
Mhm.
I know the irony when we all hear this number of nonprofits that we've got in Sacramento, we're second only to Washington, D.C.
It's incredible.
And maybe you can answer that question. Why? Why do we have so many nonprofits here? We'll be back with more from Kerry Wood of the Sacramento Region Community Foundation right after this. I was in the media business for over 35 years and had the great privilege of working with Runyon Saltzman, RSE, Marketing, Advertising, and Public Relations. We collaborated on many different campaigns, but their commitment to the nonprofit sector hasn't changed since their founder, Gene Runyon, started the agency. Over many years and many campaigns, Runyon Saltzman has been committed to improving lives by tackling California's most challenging issues. Guided by research-informed strategies and insightful, creative solutions, RSE develops innovative communications campaigns that raise awareness, educate, and reduce stigma in diverse communities throughout our state and beyond. To learn more about RSE, visit rs-e.com.
I'm Kelly Brothers. At Cap Trust, we help individuals and families with wealth planning. We help big organizations with their corporate retirement plans. But we also do a lot of work with endowments and foundations, providing fiduciary advice for their investment management, their risk management, or working with donors. Give me a call or reach out via our website or ask one of our clients, Sacramento SPCA, Sacramento Food Bank, or the Greater Sacramento Economic Council. Cap Trust in Sacramento, Roseville, or Folsom. Find us at captrust.com or call 916-924-7527.
I'm thrilled to have Western Health Advantage partnering with us as they do so much to support so many nonprofit agencies in our community. As a truly local health plan, you'll find individual and family options, employer options, plans for CalPERS and Medicare Advantage. From medical services to pharmacy, health and wellness support, as well as behavioral health care, Western Health Advantage has a plan that fits what you need. As an employer, for profit or nonprofit business, individual or family, you can find more at westernhealth.com. And now back to our conversation with Kerry Wood.
That is the $100 million question.
It is, okay. Well, and you've got $100 million coming up,
That's
so
right.
there we go.
Now, we also know that there are PTAs and churches and lots of organizations
Little League,
that make
all
up
that.
Little Leagues, yes,
Okay.
that make up that number. We do find that there can tend to be some duplication. We're always encouraging collaboration. Funders are starting more and more to ask for nonprofits to collaborate together. So I look at it as we have a very generous, a very inspired community that maybe they're inspired to open or start a nonprofit. I see that as a good thing, but it can also be daunting when you're trying to figure out where you want to give, where you want to support, where you want to volunteer your time. So again, I look at it as the heart of this region. We have, some people say, too many nonprofits, but at the same time, I think the intentions are good, and it can only make our community stronger.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Is that a bad thing that people want to develop or establish a foundation that gives back? It can't be bad.
It's a philosophical question that many of us ask, and there are, again, nonprofits that are doing similar things to another nonprofit, and we always hope that they partner and work together to strengthen their missions and what they're hoping to achieve.
We just saw one of those really unusual collaborations on an episode that today is the 21st, releases today, the 21st of February. But it was Big Brothers Big Sisters with a for-profit company for teaching literacy. And they're using the Big Brothers and Big Sisters to help in the schools with the students to take some of the burden off of the teachers. That's a nice collaboration.
Very much so.
And it's leading me to the next question that I've got for you is, do you facilitate in any way, shape, or form collaboration between the the nonprofit organizations and or even maybe the businesses that you have who are contributors?
We very much thrive on collaborations and inspiring partnerships.
Yes.
There may be competitive grants that we put out into the community that might be around a certain topic. I'll pick on disaster relief, for example. We did receive some funding. We collaborated with several nonprofits who hadn't worked together before, and they each serve different audiences, but each were very much impacted by disaster in ways that maybe the general population isn't. Those that are vision impaired, those that might be living in poverty. Bringing that together and really seeing how incredible the power of partnership and collaboration is something we want to see more of, and we want to encourage more of.
We talked a little bit about the criteria to open a fund as a donor, but when you evaluate the nonprofits, what kind of criteria do you put on them? Is there any certain length of time they have to have been in business, leadership in place, X number of dollars raised? How do you vet them per se?
Right. Every nonprofit that receives a grant from us or funds from a fund, no matter how large or small, we vet them to ensure that they're in good standing. And there are a number of different ways that we check this. There's Charity Navigator, the Attorney General's office. There's a number of organizations out there that are governing bodies for nonprofits, and we use that data to ensure that on the minute they are in good standing.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's we don't look at necessarily the length of time, but we do look at the criteria that others that are bigger than us and that have the regulatory perspective. We use that data to help guide those decisions.
Is there, if you go just through the roster of people that you service, anything that strikes you as, and this is really a unique niche that it's an organization that you wouldn't even think ever could exist, but it does, and it gets funded, and they serve a purpose in the community?
Absolutely. We see.
Oh, I love it.
So
you
many.
had it right there.
Oh,
It's
yes.
great.
We have so many creative and unique
Yes.
nonprofits filling needs that some of us just may not think of. One is, I won't call out the nonprofit individually,
Yeah, sure, that's
but
fine.
there are some that work with horses for healing trauma in youth. There's so many organizations like that are trying to make life better for those among us that are struggling with very unique diseases, very challenging disabilities, things that we don't see every day. And so that's inspiring.
There's a lot of conversation today about social enterprise. And I know this wasn't on our list of questions, but I think you'll be fine answering it just because there's this, I may call it maybe even a little bit of confusion. You've got a nonprofit that serves a need to benefit the community. You've got a for-profit that serves, in some cases, a need to benefit the community. And then you've got this thing in the middle called this social enterprise that really isn't a nonprofit. It's really not a for-profit because its sole existence isn't to raise money. What are you seeing in your space in terms of some of these social enterprises? Because you are only nonprofits, correct?
Yes. This is really a terrific way to describe what I'd say the marriage between business and nonprofit. So it's ways where business people can invest in what might be a retail center for, I'll shout out Weave. They have their retail stores, and I'm not suggesting that there are investors investing in these retail stores because Weave is a nonprofit.
Right.
But there are revenue generating, and we call maybe earned income opportunities that can be developed when a business and a nonprofit comes together. And I'm not thinking of a perfect example of that right now, but we're seeing more and more of that creativity come to pass when, we're working with angel investors and working with philanthropists who might be coming at investment in a different way. Some for charitable reasons, some for business. But we're finding that these partnerships are really elevating our region's ability to serve more people.
I think that's really a good description. And I think the other part of that is, I'm going to actually shout out two names because they're connected. Beth Hassett is the executive director for Weave, and she's done a nonprofit podcast episode, which was wonderful.
Yeah.
But we just did something with another program that we work with Ethan Conrad. So Ethan Conrad has these spaces that they're not going to be full. And he recognizes that too. He gets together with somebody like Beth, says, hey, let's open up one of your stores. And now they have this collaboration that becomes sustainable because she doesn't have got the liability of egregious rent.
Right.
He's supporting it with the opportunity for a vacancy and actually accomplishing two things that make it now sustainable.
Yes. That's
the key word in all of this that we've got these buzzwords that keep coming up, social enterprises, is sustainable, who are the beneficiaries. I think that's a great description, and it's exciting to see, as I can see in just by your expression, as these things start to happen, where we've got this hybrid model in the middle, where the for-profit companies are actually saying, we can do that in a local community, not a corporate sense where it's a little bit different. That's just a give.
Right.
But we still have a responsibility to raise money. Thank you very much. And we'll give you a little bit because it's corporate social responsibility. It's what I have to do. I love that.
Yeah, and more we have to be creative and innovative. We have to be thinking about trends we're seeing and staying 10 steps ahead of it. And that's one way to do that.
And that's exactly where we are in this next question. In terms of trends, in looking at your information, financial information online, which everybody can see, what are your expectations? It looks like it's been a good few years. Obviously, everything doesn't always go up, but what is the outlook for the next couple of years for Sacramento's contributions to the Community Foundation?
Well, we see some very good, I think all of us are seeing some very good indicators that the economy is strengthening. Inflation does affect philanthropic giving. We see some strong indicators that things are stabilizing. You can try to forecast all we want, right? If we had a crystal ball, we could be very specific. But from all indicators, it looks like the next couple of years are going to be very strong. And we are doing whatever we can at the Sacramento Region Community Foundation to encourage that. And even when times are not good, what we found in this region is that people are generous. They step up, and that keeps us going every day.
Well, it's a known fact that giving and gratitude is a visceral experience. It makes you feel good. And the more we can get people to do that, the better.
I agree.
On that giving part, as the community ages or some of your greater, more tenured families and organizations change in their dynamic, is there anything you're seeing in terms of the who that gives, the age, we go through all, from the baby boomers to the Gen Xers to Gen Zs to millennials, all of that. What's the outlook there? What are you seeing if you have any information on that?
Well, what we're seeing is the next generation wants to be engaged with the nonprofits that they support. They want to fully understand the impact. Generations ago, there might have been more of let's just call it a trust. that you
Mm-hmm.
give your $100 and it was going to be put to good use. There is still trust there. But with the next generation, we really can't stress enough the importance of engaging them. And we're seeing more and more families get their kids involved and introducing them to the idea of philanthropy with the
Great to hear.
funds. Yeah, the funds that we open, we have families that their kids are right there and having the same conversations.
Well, especially with the boomers now passing along to their children great deals of wealth
Yes.
because they amassed it. And some of it was inherited now into that second or third or even fourth generation.
Yeah.
And what do they do with it?
Right.
And there's obviously benefits from a tax consequence with philanthropic giving, but I don't sense in the way I hear things and the people I speak with that it's all about the deduction. I really do sense that it's about the give. What is it? What can I support? We work with a couple of financial guys, and one of the things that they espouse for their business is working with people who have earned their wealth and they want more from their money than just more money. They want to do something with it. They don't want to just keep creating more and more and more of it because what happens? You die and it goes to somebody else, right?
Right.
They want to be able to see and exchange that value proposition for what they can give to what they can get.
Exactly. Yes. And we hope that people, if they haven't set up an estate plan, please do. We have a fund that I didn't mention that's called a legacy fund. And that serves as an instruction for when someone passes. If they have children, they may have other organizations they want to support, but they can tell us, this is what we'd like to do with a percentage of our estate. So we can't stress enough getting something in writing. And if you have family, get them involved as well in that charitable side of their estate.
Yeah, so in essence, it's a restricted to some degree. You're directing where you want it to go versus something that may be unrestricted. It's wherever you want it. Here's our money, do where you see the greatest need.
Some folks may say, we just want to support arts in Sacramento County. Go ahead and figure out what that looks like. Where is the greatest need? And they give us that responsibility.
Ooh, that's a little
It's a
heavy
big
sometimes,
responsibility. And some are very specific.
One of the things we all hate, and that is paperwork.
Yes.
And there's lots of paperwork especially in some of the larger gifts, especially if they're coming out of a trust. I know I hate it, and everybody I speak with hates it, and we hate to have to pay somebody to do it on the side as a third party. How does all the transaction detail happen? I'm assuming everything gets taken care of by the community foundation?
To open a fund?
And
The estate
the back
planning
end of it.
part of it, or the grant making? Yes. So we don't get involved in the estate planning. That's up to an attorney and the client. But when it comes to opening a fund, it's very simple. There is a fund agreement and there are instructions. We try to keep it simple and remove as many barriers as we can. To make grants, we have an online portal. Someone can go into their fund and make a grant request. We vet the organization, like we talked about earlier, and then we take care of sending the funds out. We send letters to the nonprofits, and we ensure receipt of those funds. So we are very much involved in that paperwork, the complication. That's our job.
The stuff we hate.
Exactly.
And I assumed it was. I just wanted to make sure that we clarify that because
Yes.
that sometimes is a hang-up for some people.
It can be daunting.
I don't want to deal with all the grief of all the paperwork and then the tax stuff, and then I have to deal with it at the end of the year as well.
Right. And we do provide tax letters and those kinds of things when funds reach us, because we are a 501c3 nonprofit. It's an immediate tax deduction. Obviously, their tax preparer and tax advisors take it from there. But from that perspective, we provide that documentation.
It's basically just like the statement of mortgage interest that you would get. And
Yeah, it
They
just
pass
says,
it along to their professional to deal with it.
exactly.
See, that's the way it needs to be for everything.
Right. Wouldn't it be nice?
Yes, it would be, and not have to pay extra for it.
Exactly.
Is there a fee of some sort that the organization? I hate to even use the word charge because it's, but I don't have a better way to ask it. So I give you my money. What percentage or how does that work for
Right.
you to manage what I give?
I'm glad you asked that because it's a topic some people feel like they shouldn't ask, but I think it's an important question.
Right.
And it depends on the type of fund, and it depends on the size of the fund. So we have what we call a tiered fee structure.
Mm-hmm.
A $10,000 donor-advised fund, an individual would set up. If it is not endowed, it's 2% per year support fee. If it's endowed, it's 1.5%. Nonprofits, we give them a bigger discount, and it's across the board 1% per year based on the balance of the fund, and that supports our work. And
Okay.
then the tiered fee structure changes from there depending
Sure.
on the size.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, that's helpful because I didn't know either, and I always wondered how does it fund? And obviously, you don't want it to be exorbitant,
Right.
but those are minimal, for the amount of work that you guys do. Just as now an aside on the operation itself, how many people work at the foundation?
We have a small but mighty team, less than 20 of us.
Wow.
Yeah, just
And
under 20.
for the benefit of everybody who is wondering, well, how big is this organization? I guess you could call them assets under management.
Yes.
How much money do you work with?
So we are just under 250 million and growing.
An amazing number.
And we have just over 700 funds that we manage.
700 funds.
Funds, yeah.
How many nonprofits are engaged with the organization?
We have about just over 100 nonprofit fund holders.
Okay.
And we work with thousands of nonprofits, obviously, with the grants that
Yes.
are provided. And then Big Dave Giving, we have over 800 registered nonprofits this year. Yeah,
That's a lot for a little group of people.
absolutely.
And not to mention
They're incredible.
understanding the requirements that you've got
Yes.
with just governmental regulation and everything else that has to be handled. And you are your own 501c3.
Exactly. So it is an incredible, almost heroic feat that our staff manage on a daily basis. Very passionate group of people. We have an incredible board of directors and committees also that help.
Can you speak to that for just a few minutes? What does the makeup of that board look like?
So we have about 16 board members.
Okay.
And like most nonprofits, we have an executive committee of the board. So
Mhm.
that's the chair, the treasurer, the secretary, et cetera. And the board is really our governing body. They guide us through big decisions we need to make. They really guide our business practices. And as part of the board, we have a number of committees: our finance committee, investment committee, philanthropy and communications committee. We have a community impact committee, and it goes on from there.
Wow.
Yeah.
16 people only?
Yeah.
That's a very manageable board, but that's a lot of work for the board.
Yes. But we're growing,
Uh-huh.
and both in staff and on the board, because we need to.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to serve more people. We want to encourage more philanthropy, and we do need to have more people involved to help us do that.
Well, as the girth of money that you manage continues to grow, and we keep seeing success after success with Big Day of Giving, that just fuels the fund. I mean, it makes it that much better and benefits our community that much more.
Absolutely.
If there's one takeaway that you'd like to leave people with, I mean, I'm looking at the clock going, I can't believe this has almost been an hour in the conversation, and I still have all these things I want to ask. But if there was one thing that this is what the Sac Region Community Foundation is all about and needs the most, what would that be?
I was looking down at my notes thinking I had this great answer, but I'm just going to answer from the heart. You know, we really are, and this is going to sound incredibly Pollyanna-ish, but we really are about inspiring philanthropy. And what we hope, what we want, are for more people to think about it, to consider it. It surprises me how many people don't think about charitable giving. It's just not on their radar. And so I'm really excited about the opportunity to spread the word and not be that best kept secret.
Right. We want Big Day of Giving to be known and associated to the foundation, to the Sac Region Community Foundation.
Yes.
So people understand that it's a place. It's here. It's in our backyard.
Yes. And at the same time, we also want people to know all of the other things we do beyond Big Day of Giving and helping to build nonprofit capacity so that they can raise more money on their own and serve more people so that we can open more funds to get more dollars out. I could go on, but that's what inspires us every day.
No, I think that's a fabulous answer. That is absolutely fabulous. So if somebody wants to get in touch with the organization and or you, what's the best way to do so?
Through our website, sacregioncf.org.
And I will put that up on the show notes as well. So if anybody doesn't remember it or we're going to go back and play it again, it will be on the pages. And I would assume you probably have some social, Facebook page, et cetera.
We do. And you can also get there through our website. We have a phone number. I don't know if you want me to describe that or say that. It's 916-921-7723. That'll be on our website too.
And I'll put that in the show notes as well.
Thank you. Okay.
You know, what a gem we have in the Sacramento Region Community Foundation. And I'm really excited. I don't think I screwed it up the entire time. I got, all 4 words in the right order without saying something different. But I really had no idea of the significance. I certainly didn't know Big Day of Giving was founded by you guys. And that's such a present event that takes place for the entire Sacramento community. And you're right, we have to connect that dot to you so people realize that it happens all year long. There's so much more.
Yes.
I just can't thank you enough. The donors that contribute to the organization and the nonprofits that participate because they see the benefit of what it is you do. And it makes everything just that much simpler and easier for both parties to do more. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
And likewise.
Thank you.
Once again, we're grateful to the businesses who have made this program possible. Cap Trust, fiduciary advice for endowments and foundations. You can find them in Sacramento, Roseville, and Folsom, or at captrust.com. Runyon Saltzman Incorporated, RSC, marketing, advertising, and public relations, creating integrated communications committed to improving lives. You can find them at rs-e.com. And Western Health Advantage, a full-service healthcare plan for individuals, employer groups, and families. westernhealth.com. Thank you for listening to the Nonprofit Podcast Series. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If what you heard moved you, please reach out to that organization and do what you can to help. If you like and appreciate what we're doing to support local nonprofits, please give us a positive review, subscribe, and share. If you're a nonprofit with an interest in participating in an episode, you can reach us at info@multipointstrategies.com. The Nonprofit Podcast Network is a production of Multipoint Content Strategies and is recorded and edited by Hear Me Now Studio.